Hey, what's up? This is Gardetrace. I've recently seen the new Wonder Woman movie, and I gotta say, it was fucking awesome. It's like, I had my doubts going into that movie, and reasonably so, because, well, considering the track record of the DC Extended Universe, I had every right to be skeptical, but I've gotta say that Wonder Woman was a fucking awesome movie, and I feel that this is the one movie where, hey, the DC Extended Universe, they really hit the nail on the head. But even with as good as this movie is, will it ultimately save the DC Extended Universe? Because you have to remember something. This is the fourth movie in the DC Extended Universe. We've had Man of Steel to kick things off, and that movie was rather meh. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. And quite frankly, that movie was really depressing, and it is like, it was a bit too dark for a Superman movie. But either way, the movie was an okay start for it. And then you have Batman v Superman, which was just an absolute fuck up because, well, we introduced like Wonder Woman in that movie. So before we actually get Wonder Woman's own movie, we show her in that one. And really, her placement in that movie didn't make a whole lot of sense, as well as all of the DC cameos that we've gotten. We've gotten The Flash, we had Cyborg, we had Aquaman. It's like all of these cameos, it's like, wow. It just feels like a bunch of characters being thrown at us. And also with the fact that that movie also brought in Doomsday, and as well as taken from the Death of Superman storyline. It's like, I thought this movie was called Batman v Superman, but the Batman v Superman part is really nothing more than an afterthought as far as that movie is concerned, because by the time we get to it, and then it ends on the stupidest thing ever, Martha! It's like, who gives a fuck about it at that point? And then we have Suicide Squad, which was even worse than Batman v Superman, as bad as that movie was. Because when it comes to Batman v Superman, it's just like, it had a trend of like having too much going on to the point where it completely loses sight of itself. But at least Batman v Superman had an overall plot of what was happening. Even if it was a fucking stupid plot, at least it had something. Suicide Squad, on the other hand, it was a complete clusterfuck. It was an absolute dumpster fire because, well, the entire premise of that movie did not make sense. It's like, okay, let's say the next Superman comes in and he turns out to be a bad guy. Who is going to be able to protect us from him? Batman and Wonder Woman for starters. Just like when you think of like what that guy said in the movie about if Superman were to rip off the roof of the White House and steal the president out of the Oval Office, who would have stopped him? Batman won, Wonder Woman, so it's like, okay. So now Amanda Waller comes in with Task Force X, and then she's getting all of these villains to form a team together. So basically, it's an Avengers of bad guys. So it really does not make a whole lot of sense to get these guys together, especially considering these are guys who aren't even equipped to handle a Superman-ready threat. It's like the only one that could was the Enchantress. But then she winds up being the villain of the movie. Because we all thought it was going to be the Joker. Everyone, with the way the trailers and the commercials was like, making us think like the Joker was going to be the villain. But no, the Joker really didn't matter at all in that movie. It's like, if you were to take the Joker out, it really wouldn't make a difference. So it just was a complete fuck up in that regard. Now Wonder Woman makes no cameo in this movie. We do, of course, get scenes with Batman and scenes of the Flash, but there's no Wonder Woman. Makes you wonder, what she's doing right now. Even though it wouldn't make sense to bring Wonder Woman into this movie, it didn't make sense to have that Flash cameo where he's stopping Captain Boomerang, because it's like, come on, does the Flash have nothing better to do? I kind of feel that he would have something better to do than that. But when it comes to Suicide Squad, the entire issue with the movie was throwing a bunch of characters. So it's like a bunch of characters being thrown at us with no rhyme or reason of how they really got there. And it's like, the only ones that we get any sort of focus on are Harley Quinn and Deadshot, who pretty much are the only things that make the movie even tolerable to look at. But when you think about it, the whole movie was just nothing more than a huge hypothetical. They was just getting a bunch of people together to be prepared for a hypothetical, not a threat that we know is going to happen and it's right in front of our faces. So that's why the movie invokes a plot. So that's the big issue that I feel. That movie really did absolutely nothing in terms of world building. It's just, they're all there, bunch of characters that we know nothing about and we're not invested in, just thrown at us. That was the huge issue with that movie. It did nothing to build up the world or to really give us any really good character arcs except for Harley Quinn. But then we get Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman, of course, does these things right. When it comes to how Wonder Woman is, it's kind of comparable to like with Marvel, how with Captain America, how it's actually a movie that takes place in the past. Because of course with Captain America, it's about, Steve Rogers and his life as a pencil neck geek in Brooklyn, and then he gets that super soldier serum to become Captain America, but then he gets, at the end of the movie, he's frozen in time. And then he's frozen, and then he's unthawed 70 years later into the present world, leading up to him going into the Avengers. And then with Wonder Woman, this pretty much it's Wonder Woman like after Batman v Superman, just looking at that picture and reminiscing about her past when she was on the island on Themyscira, and then Steve Trevor came in. Because like we have Steve Trevor, who we see him in the past, as opposed to like certain things like the Wonder Woman DC animated movie where it's showing Steve Trevor coming to her island in present times. Here we have it during like the times of war. So like kind of in a similar setting as to what, Captain America would. But it does help as it gives us a good idea on her character arc and building up her particular world within the story and letting us see, past and future. That way we can see, along the timelines how this could work. Even like within the Wonder Woman movie, we have Ludendorff where he uses that thing to enhance his strength. Because like it looks like that could be probably an experimental form of Mirakuru, something that could possibly play a role in later films. But the thing about this movie is we have Wonder Woman here who is going to be the only person to have had their own solo movie leading into the Justice League movie later this year. Because you have to remember, in the Justice League movie, we're gonna have Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg. Wonder Woman's the only one that's had her own solo movie at this point. We're not gonna have Superman appear in this movie, or possibly he might appear at some point, depending on what the fuck they do. But whatever. The thing is, Batman technically has not had his own movie because, well, he was sharing a movie with Superman. It's like, you could have a movie with Batman where, the villain could have been Jared Leto's Joker, to see how that Joker could carry himself as the villain of a movie along with Batman. Because, you can't exactly compare Jared Leto's Joker to the likes of Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger, because those Jokers were like the villains of their movies, had pretty much the time themselves, even though, of course, we had a secondary villain in The Dark Knight in the form of Two-Face, but within the context of everything that movie set up, it made a whole lot of sense. So they could have had, the Joker, he could have been the villain of like a solo Batman movie leading up to the Justice League, as well as like, let's say if they could have still potentially had Superman and still, use Jared Leto, because when it comes to the Enchantress, she was just so out of place in the fucking movie. It's like the Enchantress would have been much better off in kind of a Justice League Dark type of setting when we start introducing magicians. So like, let's say we bring in John Constantine and Zatanna. That's whatever. It would have made sense to have the Enchantress. Whereas now we're going into the Justice League. And now the Justice League, I'm just wondering what could they possibly do? Because, well, they're going to have all of these characters together, and they're going to have to develop these characters within the movie before we've actually developed where these characters came from. Because, of course, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Avengers members all got their movies leading up into the Avengers. So we know what all of their personalities are, what all their backstories are leading into the movie. So, and then with the Avengers, a lot of the movie was pretty much the characters all playing off of each other. So the movie was pretty much driven by character interactions. So the Justice League can't really do that because, well, you guys are just now starting to have these characters brought in without actually having them in their movies. They're going to be getting their movies after the fact of this one. So that's the big issue that I say, is that Wonder Woman, it does a great job, and it's the one movie where they get everything right in terms of execution. However, it could possibly just be good as a standalone movie as opposed to being something that'll ultimately save the DC Extended Universe as a whole, because I really feel that this Justice League is a mistake. We have not even had them in their own movies yet. So I really haven't gotten the opportunity to see how Ben Affleck's Batman would carry an entire movie on his own. And also, we're not going to get the Flash, Cyborg, or Aquaman carrying entire movies on their own until we get after the Justice League movie, which makes me feel that the DC Extended Universe is doing everything completely ass backwards. Because they've been doing everything ass backwards up to this point. Because Batman v Superman was so ass backwards where it really hasn't done us much of a way to really build up on the world, because the only other movie besides Wonder Woman to do any sense of world building would of course be Man of Steel, because it lets you know everything about Superman, his backstory, and that was like his movie right then and there. And now we have Wonder Woman, we have her movie, so we know their particular aspects. Think of the Avengers. Like, when you think of the Avengers, we have everyone in their movies beforehand. We start things off with Iron Man. We get his world. We get all about him. And then we start bringing in the Hulk, getting us aspects of him. And then we have Thor, where we start bringing in Asgard, which, Thor was a movie that a lot of people were skeptical on how it would work on paper. And then you have Captain America, which another movies people were skeptical on, just based on, the character. And also, they're also going back in time to show, like, the earlier stuff. And basically, there's a lot of connective tissue between everything leading into the Avengers. And then the connective tissue expands onwards to create a coherent universe. Whereas the DC Extended Universe does not have a whole lot in the way of collective tissue. It's just, here, this thing is here, and there's also this thing here, and boom, that's pretty much it. We're not going to explain how we really got to this and this. That's really what the DC Extended Universe has been doing. And this was like their first good movie. This was their first positively rated movie. whereas DC Extended Universe has had a lot of negatively reviewed movies. So it's like Man of Steel had a very meh start. It wasn't a terrible movie, like I said, but then with the next two, those were clearly complete shit. But then finally, they hit the nail on the head with Wonder Woman. So basically, you guys didn't really hit your stride until the fourth movie in. Whereas, like, let's say you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have Iron Man, boom, you hit the nail right on the head at the get-go, right at the get-go. So you guys the DC Extended Universe has basically had their Iron Man 4 movies in as opposed to 1. Because the DC Extended Universe's priorities have just been so off. That makes me wonder how exactly can, like, the Justice League really pull this off. And it makes me really feel that Wonder Woman, it's gonna be like their one good movie, but then they're gonna fall into the same thing that they've always been doing of just throwing characters in. So it just feels like, is this gonna be, a sign that DC is gonna be a one-hit wonder, or are they just gonna completely fall flat on their asses? Because, well, I hope that's not the case. I do want to have some degree of optimism for the DC Extended Universe, as, Wonder Woman has definitely helped out greatly in that regard. But where are they going to take it from here in order to build up a cinematic universe with enough connective tissue and interlocking storylines within it that's coherent, and for it to be a movie franchise that can really compete with the Marvel Cinematic Universe? But hey, even if they do royally fuck up, at least Wonder Woman was a really good movie. So what do you guys think of, like, where the DC Extended Universe could potentially, go on from here on? Is Wonder Woman a sign that the DC Extended Universe is up to bigger and better things, or are they just simply one and done with this movie? Be sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Also, like and subscribe for more content to come. Anyway, with that being said, that'll be the end of this video. Have a good day, everyone. This is Trace, signing out.